Hey everyone, it's me again, Ninjamon, and I just want to say this. I know I said I was going to make a new channel, but things went wrong with the email and stuff, and it was pretty hard to do, so I'm decided to do stuff on this channel still. And I'm doing something new that I haven't done before. I'm making a Pokemon TCG deck for you all. Basically a tutorial. And I'm going to try and make a schedule of this so I can keep this up, because I've been really getting into cards and I've really been having fun with it, and I figured I could make that into a channel. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you guys Darkrai EX, Yveltal EX, and Zoroark Break deck, or as I like to call it, Turbo Darkness. Now, first thing you're going to need is 3 copies of Darkrai EX. Now, you're mainly going to be using this card for the attack Dark Pulse. And for 2 colorless, it does 20, and it does 20 plus for each dark energy attached to all your Pokemon in play. Now, at first it seems underwhelming, but the damage racks up really fast. I've been doing 180 with this thing before, and the second attack's not bad. A dark and a 2 colorless does 80 and 80 plus if the opponent's sleeping. So I guess you could use that for like a Hypno deck with Goodnight Babies, but I just find Dark Pulse to be better. So going to set those over here. Next thing you're gonna need is 2 copies of Yveltal EX, and both attacks are pretty good, but the main one you're going to be using is Evil Ball. It does 20 and 20 plus energy attached to both Pokemon. This is a great counter to a lot of decks that are energy heavy, like Tyranitar, Mega Tyranitar, Mega Mewtwo Y, Mega Mewtwo X, Mega Gardevoir. This thing just counters a lot of things, and yes, Mega Gardevoir does have resistance, but the damage racks up so fast, and just for a dark and a colorless, it's a really good attack. And Y Cyclone's not too bad if you want to get energy onto another Pokemon after stacking a bunch of things on here and it's about to die, so really good. Next thing you're going to want is, sadly, 2 copies of Shaymin EX. And I say sadly because this card is so expensive. Now, some cards in it I'm using might look a little weird, and that's because they're proxies, because they don't actually have the card yet. But I made do with it, and they're really good. So, you're not going to use it for Sky Return. You could, but not the best idea. You're mainly going to be using it for setup. And setup, once you put it on the bench, draw until you have 6 cards. That's why this card is so expensive. The best draw support we have in the game. The full art is going for about $60 for a piece of cardboard. And you're going to need at least 2. That's $120. It's just sad. Next you're going to want is 1 copy of Hoopa EX. Now, you're not going to use this thing for attacking at all. Its attack sucks. Well, you're going to be using it for a Scoundrel Ring. Search out your deck for 3 Pokemon EX other than Hoopa, and you're only one running here, so it doesn't really matter. So you can get out Darkrai, Yveltal, Shaymin, in any way you want. You can get all 3 of your Darkrai's, some Darkrai in both your Yveltals, Darkrai, Yveltal, Shaymin, just really good in EX decks. Pretty much a staple in any EX deck. Next thing you're going to want is 2 copies of Zora. It doesn't matter what Zora you use, I just like to do a 1-1, because the Whiny Voice and Moonlight Madness is pretty good. Moonlight Madness is better, but Whiny Voice is not bad, if you can able to discard the right card in your opponent's hand. So, nothing too noteworthy about this. What is noteworthy, though, is 2 copies of Zoroark. You guys remember Keldeo from Legendary Treasures? This is basically a Keldeo with the ability Stand-In. Basically, if it's on your bench, you can switch. So if you're confused, paralyzed, or just want to get out of the active easily, Zoroark is your guy. And Mind Jack is a really good attack. Great counter to Mega Rayquaza. Does 10 plus 30 for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And with Mega Rayquaza, they have a full bench of 8 with Skyfield. That's a one-shot of a Mega Rayquaza. It's extremely good. Next up is 2 copies of Zoroark Break. Foul Play is a really good attack. Basically, you copy one of the attacks of your opponent's Pokemon, and it's also a really good counter for things like Mega Mewtwo Y and, well, not Gardevoir EX, my bad. So it can really come in handy. Just know that it doesn't turn to the type of your opponent's attack. It stays a dark type. So let's say you're using a psychic attack and their weakness is psychic, like a lot of psychic Pokemon are for some reason. It's not going to count for weakness. It's going to stay a dark type. So put those right here. And next up, 1 copy of the Oblivion Wing yveltal. Oblivion Wing does 30 and get energy from your dark energy from your discard pile into one of your Pokemon. Really good, more dark acceleration. Now, you're not going to be discarding energies all willy-nilly, because it's only 1, and you're going to want as much energy as you can get in this deck. But it's still really good for getting energy out, if you're able to get into one of your opponent's Pokemon that's not really meant for attacking, like a Shaymin or Hoopa. Next up, last for Pokemon, is 1 copy of the Fright yveltal. This can be really good, since EXs are starting to become really popular again. And this can 2-shot a Shaymin on the bench. So you could potentially draw up to 4 prizes at the max, and 3 at the minimum. And its ability, Fright, is really good. It cancels Fighting Fury Belt, so if the opponent has taken more damage than can take without the belt, put this in and knocks him out, so you basically take a free prize. So, yep, free up space. Yeah, that's the best I'm gonna do. Next up, into the supporters, 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. Really standard stuff. Discard your hand and get a new, fresh hand of 7 cards. So, although this is a deck where you want to be putting stuff in the discard pile necessity, but it's still good. Next up, 2 copies of N. N, shuffle your hand into your deck. Both you and your opponent do. Sorry for starting, I haven't done this in a while. And draw the amount of prizes. Now, this can be a game changer when you're late in the game if you're falling behind. You can make your opponent potentially only draw 1 card, so it's a really good disruptor. Next up, 1 copy of Lysander, extremely basic stuff. Get out one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, preferably a Shaymin EX or an Octillery, depending on what they're using. And basically, potentially get an easy prize. Next up, last supporter is Hex Maniac. Now Hex Maniac does kind of cancel out stand-in, setup, and Scoundrel Ring, but basically, as long as you're using this as the last card in your turn before you attack, it's not that bad, because then it practically only shuts down your opponent's abilities. Basically, the only time you don't want to use this is when you're facing a deck that has Garbodor that's active with Garbotoxin, in which case it's completely useless to use and basically just meant for fodder for another card that's coming up. Next up into the items, we run 3 copies of Trainer's Mail. Yes, only 3 and not 4. I feel like this deck doesn't really need 4 Trainer's Mail. It's pretty good with 3, but no less. Basically, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and get a trainer card other than Trainer's Mail. So it can be good to get like a VS Seeker, Supporter, anything like that. Next up is 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Frappe, be quiet. Sorry guys, that's my dog. Oh, and she's coming up. Hi Frappe. Okay, so as I was saying, 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Basically, discard 2 cards in your hand and get Pokemon from your deck. The main Pokemon you want to be going for is Hoopa, so you can set up your bench with EXs. But you can get other Pokemon if you want to, so it's really good that way. Honestly, Ultra Ball is a staple in almost any deck that's not Water type, because they have Dive Ball. Next up, 4 copies of Max Elixir. Now, search the top 6 cards of your deck and put a basic energy you find to one of your basic bench Pokemon. So basically, anything other than Zoroark, you can attach an energy to and just like build up the damage of Dark Pulse. So that's good. Basically, the only one you don't want to attach to is Hoopa, because it's completely useless on him. You could Sky Return with Shaymin if you want, because a lot of decks do lose to Shaymin Loop, so it's not bad. Next up, I have 4 copies of VS Seeker. Extremely basic stuff, and yes, I know they're really pricey for uncommons, but they're just really good. Basically, get support out of your discard pile. Now we're losing battle compressor, so getting supporters from the discard pile is hard, but it's still good. Because you can just Lysander a bunch of times if you want, or you can use N repeatedly, try to confuse your opponent, things like that. Next up, we have 2 copies of Fighting Fury Belt. Now, Fighting Fury Belt, it adds 40 HP and boosts damage by 10. That's extremely good for this deck, as it turns Darkrai into 220, Yveltal into 210. You don't want to attach it to Zoroark, because it's going to lose your effect when you evolve. Because it only works on basics. It turns Shaymin into 150, and you're not going to attach it to Hoopa, but it turns into 210. And both yveltals are non-EX, it turns them into 170, so it's a really good card, and it can really boost the damage if you need, for Dark Pulse if you need it, or Evil Ball. Next up, 2 copies of Floatstone. The main one you want to attach it to is Zoroark, so you can stand in retreat. That's a good strategy. Or you can attach it to Hoopa to try and make him Lysander proof. And Shaymin not so much, as Shaymin's easy to get out of the active. So, yep. Next up, we have 1 copy of Energy Switch. Basically, just choose an basic energy from one of your Pokemon, attach it to another one. So, yeah. Next up for stadiums, we have 2 copies of Reverse Valley. Now, Reverse Valley, for this side, boosts the damage of Dark-type Pokemon by 10. So basically boosting the damage of everything but Shaymin and Hoopa. And you're not going to be wanting to attack with them, so it's okay. So that's another way to boost your damage. Next up, for energies, we have 4 double colorless energies. Those are mainly for Shaymin and Zoroark, and the Fright Night Yveltal. And it can also help Yveltal boost the damage of Evil Ball. And next up, and last but not least, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 basic Dark Energy. Really standard stuff, just activate your attacks, boost the damage of Dark Pulse, Evil Ball, and just let your Pokemon attack. So yeah, there is my Turbo Darkness deck, everyone. Watch it. Look at it in its glory. Alright. So that's it. My friend is actually going to be making another one of these on Thursday, and then we're actually going to record a match using our decks, so look forward to that. Anyway, I'm Ninjamon, and I will see you all later.